2020-2021 MSJC Program Review for Instruction. Illumin Template Instructions. Section 1B. First, scroll down to Section 1A1. Click on the Minimize Maximize button to view the entire field. Scroll down to the bottom. Two of the three courses for which you'll create CLOs in the next section have been chosen. For our example, these courses are Math 105 and Math 140. There may be an additional course here as well. Exit the answer field by clicking the Minimize Maximize button and scroll down to section 1B1. You should see the courses from 1A1 already populated here. If not, put them in. Let's review the instructions for section 1B1. For each of the courses listed, we need to create 3 CLOs. These CLOs need to be true outcomes, not objectives. The Transforming Lives video series was created to assist you with this work. If you have not watched them in a while, please watch the videos right now. Click on Additional Links and then Transforming Lives video series. As explained in the Transforming Lives video series, each of your CLOs needs to measure lifelong learning knowledge, a skill, habit, value, or trait that is 1. Necessary for success in the course, 2. Helps form the foundation for a lifelong transportable skill set, 3. Aligns with the college mission, vision, values, and equity pledge by aligning with the skills and competencies in the MSJC ILOs and at least one PLO, and 4. Is articulated in language that is clear to students, instructors outside your discipline, and future employers. Ideally, you will create the CLO statements yourselves, statements that embody the needs of your students, reflecting your expert experience and training. If this is not yet the case, remember in Transforming Lives Video 3, you were asked some questions. What should students be like when they leave your courses, or program? What wouldn't they have that they need if your courses were no longer part of a given award or pathway? Also, here's another question. What didn't they have that they needed when they entered your course, award track, or pathway? The answers to these questions should point you toward the ILOs that best align with your discipline. If not, contact the assessment coordinator for assistance. Like we did in Transforming Lives videos 5 and 6, let's start with an ILO that fits your discipline. The ILOs are provided just below the instructions and links in section 1B1. Following a robust and lively departmental discussion, let's say math chooses communication. Let's begin filling out our answer in Illumin. Click the Maximize Minimize button to expand the answer field. Place your cursor a couple of lines below the two courses, Math 105 and Math 140. Click on the Table tool. We'll need 6 rows because we'll be creating 3 CLOs for each of our 2 courses. We'll need 4 columns, 1 for the course, 1 for the ILO, 1 for the PLO, and 1 for the CLO. Let's also use a header to name each column. Here is our table. Let's use the first column for our course name, the second column for the CLO, the third column for the PLO, and the fourth column for the ILO. We'll start with Math 105 for our course. Since both courses are math, we'll just use their numbers. We'll start our CLO and PLO statements with the student will, and we'll enter communication for our ILO. Note that you can right-click on the table to access typical spreadsheet functionality, like adding a row. Make sure to save draft in each section, as there is no autosave. Employing backward design, Let's align a PLO to our ILO communication. Then we'll create a CLO that aligns with the PLO and ILO. The Transforming Lives videos cover all this, so please review them if you find yourselves stuck here. You can access them via the additional links at the top of this section. First, for the PLO. Let's check our current PLOs. For math, the first part of the second PLO aligns with the ILO communication. Develop the ability to express ideas and reason logically regarding abstract situations. However, the entire PLO seems to contain two very different skills and should probably be rewritten into two separate PLOs if we want to keep them both. So our PLO could be, the student will express ideas. But that sounds very general, too vague. We appear stuck. What if you can't find an existing PLO that works? Perhaps your PLOs are so content-centric they will either offer no help or worse, stymie the backward design process. If so, you'll want to create a new PLO now. If writing your own is problematic, you can begin the PLO and the CLO using the habits of mind that align with communication. Important. Please don't be concerned that you'll be stuck with what you are about to choose. Even before you assess your students, as you create assessment tools and rubrics with the assessment coordinator, and after you've assessed your students, analyzed the data, and gotten student feedback, including improvements to outcome and rubric language, you can modify outcome language, choose new PLOs and or CLOs, or even switch a PLO with a CLO. All this is new to us, so expect many changes, particularly in the beginning. Let's look at the habits of mind. Click on additional links and choose Habits of Mind and A, C, and U rubrics. Here are the habits of mind: persisting, managing impulsivity, listening with understanding and empathy, thinking flexibly, thinking about thinking or metacognition, striving for accuracy, questioning and posing problems, applying past knowledge to new situations, thinking and communicating with clarity and precision, gathering data through all senses, creating, imagining, innovating, responding with wonderment and awe, taking responsible risks, finding humor, thinking interdependently, and remaining open to continuous learning. Which of these habits of mind could serve as a PLO? Which ones would naturally be sub-goals of communication, but would need multiple courses to be fully developed? After reading through the habits of mind descriptions, it seems like striving for accuracy and thinking and communicating with clarity and precision are good starting points. After yet another robust yet curiously respectful department dialogue, let's choose striving for accuracy. Communicating with accuracy is certainly a trait that's needed at all levels of mathematics for success and is also very useful in real-life situations. Let's use this for our PLO. The student will strive for accuracy. We've put it in the PLO column in section 1B1 and need to include it as a PLO modification in section 1B2. Remember to hit Save Draft often. Now we need a CLO for our communication PLO and ILO. How about the communicating part of thinking and communicating with clarity and precision? For our CLO, we will write, the student will communicate with clarity and precision. Truthfully, at this point, without actually assessing our students and seeing how these outcomes work or don't in practice, it is not clear which habit of mind should be a PLO and which should be a CLO. As weird as that seems now, don't be concerned. This ambiguity will be addressed as you work with the assessment coordinator to build learning experiences and rubrics and assess our students. Reviewing what we have in our section 1A1 table, there are some issues with these outcomes and their grouping. There is something off about the PLO in this ILO, PLO, CLO grouping. It doesn't necessarily connect to communication in an obvious way. And there appears a lack of flow from the ILO, or most general outcome, down through the PLO to the CLO, the most specific outcome. Let's try this. Let's rewrite the PLO to be more communication-based. The student will communicate with accuracy. But this still seems to be less general than the CLO. The student will communicate with clarity and precision. So let's switch the CLO and the PLO. Here's how that would look in this table. That feels better. There is a more natural hierarchy from the specific CLO up through the more general PLO to the overarching ILO. To finish the section, complete the other 5 CLOs and remember to hit Save Draft. Once your assessment coordinator retrieves your CLO, PLO, ILO grouping from your program review, he will begin the task of creating learning experiences so students can engage these outcomes outside of class in parallel to the course content being presented. He will also begin to develop rubrics. He will contact you to report progress and get additional guidance. Of course, this can't happen if you don't have any PLOs or CLOs in your program review, so leave something as the starting point for all this. Section 1B2. We have already visited this section. Here we list the changes to our PLOs, including any new ones that emerged in the previous section, 1B1. We'll use a table to organize this stuff. Here it is. We just cut and paste from our work in 1B1. Just make sure you include enough information: the new PLO, the CLO to which it connects, and the course. If you do want to introduce a new PLO that does not yet connect to a CLO, just make sure you connect it to an ILO. Here is a table for doing that. Always remember to hit Save Draft. Section 1B3, CLO New Assessment Tools. In this section, you will record any assessment tools you'd like to use for the CLOs you created in Section 1B1. Assessment tools are the work the students do that generate your Lumen scores. In the past, when we used our objectives as outcomes, we used our quizzes, tests, and final exams as assessment tools. Now that we are measuring skills, habits, values, and traits, not course content, we will need new assessment tools. Ideally, these would be multi-week projects students could complete, individually or collaboratively, that build the skill measured by the CLO and scored by the rubric. These projects would be completed mostly outside of class. Each student would score themselves using the Illumin rubric. Each project would conclude with the student revisiting the rubric and updating their score. Preferably, there would be 2 or 3 of these projects for each CLO. Each project would take 2 to 3 weeks to complete. Perhaps you or a full-time or associate faculty colleague already utilized such a project in your class. Perhaps you created it to improve student success for some particularly challenging course content. If so, ask yourself, what are the underlying skills or habits being developed through this project that students use to succeed learning this content? If you can articulate these skills and habits, and they not only help your students pass your class, but are transportable, i.e. they help form the foundation for lifelong learning, then include this skill or habit in one of your CLOs and this project as an assessment tool for that CLO. That is, you can create learning outcomes, CLOs and or PLOs, working backward from an existing class project, provided that project really imparts habits and skills that support lifelong learning for an ILO. It is likely that assessing skills, habits, values, and traits is so new that you will need to think a lot more about this before you can create an assessment tool for a particular CLO. Your assessment coordinator will be working on this himself using your CLOs in Section 1B1, and he will be collaborating with you. So don't be concerned if you have nothing to enter here. Just say, we'll collaborate with assessment coordinator in the near future, and you're done. Be on the lookout for future Transforming Lives videos that provide support and training for this work. If you or another instructor have begun this work, you can scroll down to Section 2D, Responsibility Schedule, and enter the information requested. Note, please do not enter faculty here without their express permission. An email trail is best. You are scheduling work, not assigning it. Please view the instructions for Section 2D before you enter responses in that section. Here is our sample response. We'll collaborate with the assessment coordinator in the near future. If you have actual assessment tools, create a table like you did earlier in Section 1 and list the assessment tool along with the corresponding CLO. Remember to hit Save Draft. Section 1B4. Now that you have created new CLOs in Section 1B1 and created, if needed, corresponding PLOs in Section 1B2 and the corresponding assessment tools in Section 1B3, or have made plans to do so in the future, we need corresponding rubrics in Section 1B4. That is, for each CLO created in Section 1B1, we need a corresponding PLO assessment tool and rubric. While the rubric measures achievement of the corresponding CLO, without an actual assessment tool, it may be difficult, if not impossible, to provide enough specificity for each rubric score to create a meaningful rubric for both faculty and students. Once again, the assessment coordinator will be working on this himself and will collaborate with you. So if you have your CLOs recorded in Section 1B1, but little else done in Section 1B, just say, "We'll collaborate with assessment coordinator in the near future," and you are done. Here is our sample response. We'll collaborate with the assessment coordinator in the near future. Remember to hit Save Draft. Before we conclude these instructions, let's look at a quick example. While future Transforming Lives videos will cover rubric design, let's rough out a response to Section 1B4. That way, if you and/or your colleagues have ideas or have already begun constructing a rubric for a CLO back in Section 1B1, you can enter the work here. To construct a rubric, let's use an Illumin table. We'll create a 4-scale rubric with scores 4, 3, 2, and 1, and put it in an extra column for the CLO. This means we'll need 5 columns and 1 row. Here is our table. Typically, the top score of 4 indicates exceptional performance. We don't expect many students to score a 4. A 3 typically corresponds to a student who meets expectations, and we expect most students to earn this score. A 2 corresponds to a student performance that is below expectations, and a 1 corresponds to a performance that needs improvement. Let's use the CLO from 1A1. The student will communicate with accuracy. Recall this was an example for math. To describe each score level with enough detail to differentiate one score from another, and so that faculty and students can utilize the rubric effectively, similar work for different students earns the same score, we need to add language for each score. A 4 would pretty much be perfect. All symbols, exponents, parentheses, limits of integration, etc., included in their proper locations. A 3 would allow for acceptable but infrequent error. A 2 would indicate that increased attention to detail was needed. A 1 would mean additional help from the instructor and/or tutors would be necessary. Even more specific language would be helpful, but this might be the best we can do right now. Once we have an actual student project or learning experience, we can tie the rubric language more closely to that learning experience. Also, as students and faculty use the rubric, they will provide input for more specificity and language improvement. Again, watch for future Transforming Lives videos. Remember to hit Save Draft. Once you have a completed rubric, send it to the assessment coordinator and he will enter it into Illumin so you can score your students. If you or another instructor have begun this work, you can scroll down to Section 2D, Responsibility Schedule, and enter the information requested. Note, please do not enter faculty here without their express permission. An email trail is best. You are scheduling work, not assigning it. Please view the instructions for Schedule 2D before you enter responses in this section. If you have any questions or would like assistance, please contact Paul at programreview@msjc.edu or at phurt@msjc.edu. This template needs to be completed no later than 26 February 2021. The wraps are due 12 March 2021.